Hello, I'm Brian Tracy, and I'm very happy to be recording this message for my friends at Students of Liberty. I have given more than 5,000 talks and seminars and workshops in 77 countries, and I've spoken to more than 5 million people. I've also written 77 books and recorded more than 1,000 hours of audio and video programs, some of which you may have seen on YouTube. Well, when I started my life, I started coming from a poor family. We didn't have any money. My father was not always employed. And our favorite song in the family was, "We Can't Afford It. We Can't Afford It." At the age of 10, I went out and began working in the neighborhood, doing gardening jobs and washing windows and cleaning sidewalks to earn a little bit of money so I could buy my own clothes. The only clothes my parents could afford were used clothes that they got from used clothes stores. One of the worst things that happened to me was when I went to school, someone recognized clothes that her parents had given away and that my parents had bought for me to wear to school. So I didn't finish high school, and I could only do laboring jobs. My first job was washing dishes, and then washing cars, and then washing floors. And from there I worked in factories, and I worked in sawmills. I worked on farms and ranches. I worked in construction and on a ship in the North Atlantic. When I was 23 years old, I was working as an itinerant farm laborer during the harvest. An itinerant farm laborer is someone who works only during the harvest, and after the harvest I was once more uneducated, unskilled, and unemployed. And then I got into sales. And I struggled in sales until I began asking a question. Why is it that some people are more successful than others? Especially, why are some people more successful in sales than others? And so I began to ask them and take notes and practice what they told me. And then I began to read the books of other successful salespeople. And then I began to attend their seminars. And I kept taking notes. And every time I learned something new, I would run out and try it out immediately. Then I began to ask, why are some businesses more successful than others? Why is it 20% of businesses earn 80% of the profits in every industry worldwide? And I began to study business, thousands of hours. In my 30s, I went back and got an MBA from a top university on how to succeed in business. Since then, I've built, managed, developed more than $250 million worth of businesses for myself and others. But then I began to ask in my 20s, why is it that some countries, some societies are more successful than others? And I began to study economics. And you might be interested, the first book I read was a book called Human Action by Ludwig von Mises. And I had never studied economics before. And you may know that Ludwig von Mises was the professor who taught Friedrich von Hayek early in his career. Von Mises, I think, was the great genius. And as I read von Mises, I realized that all of economics is just basically people acting in a particular way as individuals and groups and as nations. So I spent the next 4,000 hours reading every single book that Ludwig von Mises had ever written, every book that Friedrich von Hayek had written, every book that William Hazlitt had written. I began to read economic books. I lived economics for years. I attended the Mont Pelerin Society meetings. I joined some of the biggest conservative organizations in the world. I attended some of the top conferences. I had dinner with people like Milton Friedman and George Stiglitz and Gary Becker, all Nobel Prize winning economists. So I immersed myself in the subject, and then I began sitting down and I thought, there must be a simpler way to explain how freedom and free enterprise and free market economics works. And I began searching and searching, thousands of hours, and I finally discovered what I call the unified field theory. Albert Einstein said all of his life that he was looking for one theory or concept that explained all of the world of physics and gravity and mathematics, and he never discovered. But I discovered a unified field theory that explains all of economics, history, politics, wealth, poverty, riches, rich nations and poor nations, and I call it the E factor, or the expediency factor. And this goes right back to von Mises, and it goes forward to another 5,000 hours of study that I did in psychology, is how is it that people think and act and get results. And I put it all together, and this expediency theory says simply this, is that people are neither good nor bad, they are merely expedient. And that people always seek the fastest and easiest way to get the things they want immediately, with very little concern for long-term consequences, and sometimes no concern at all. You may not know, but Dr. Edward Banfield of Harvard studied successful people for 50 years. He found there was one quality of people that assured that they would increase their income and their social status over time, and that was long-time perspective. In other words, they gave a lot of thought to the consequences of what they were doing in the short term to assure that they would achieve greater success in the long term. In William and Henry Hazlitt's book called Economics in One Lesson, he said the primary way of thinking of the top people is to think about what are the likely consequences that will happen. He pointed out that in economics, politicians say, here's a wonderful plan or policy or regulation or tax that looks and sounds very good in the short term. But the long-term consequences can be terrible and far worse than if the politicians had done nothing at all. Well, I put this all together in a book called Something for Nothing, which I wrote a few years ago. Many people have said this book, Something for Nothing, which says that this is the all-consuming desire that turns the American dream into a social nightmare. This book is now being read and published in all foreign languages because they recognize that the Something for Nothing principles apply everywhere to everyone at all times, and they explain all the problems in world economics and in personal economics today. The main problem is that people engage in activities today that have long-term consequences that are far worse than if they had never done anything at all. This is explained as what we call the law of unintended consequences. Perfect example. People say people who are poor and have no money and have no food and so on should be helped by the government. And nobody disagrees with that. I always like Ronald Reagan saying a handout rather than a hammock. But nobody agrees with helping the less fortunate. So we help the less fortunate, and then people say, well, we should help the less fortunate even more, and we should give them even more. And each time they run for office, it's like an auction. Each time a politician runs for office, they ask for your vote by your giving them your vote in exchange for them spending somebody else's money on something that you think is a good idea. All modern democratic politics today is vote buying, unfortunately, on both sides of the aisle. So therefore, we say, well, let's give the unfortunate some money. So we give the unfortunate some money, and instead of it being a hand up, it becomes a hammock. So they start to work less and less. And we say, well, this is not good. We must help these people, so we give them more money and keep giving them more money. And every election, people say, vote for me, and I'll give more money to the less fortunate. Now, where are you going to get this money? Well, we'll punish those who are more successful. And they have this idea, some of them, that success is something like rain. It just falls, and sometimes it falls on some people, and sometimes it falls on others. So it's really very much a matter of luck. And if you work 10 or 20 or 30 years, 10 or 12 or 14 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week, and finally become a millionaire. Average self-made millionaire in America takes 22 years of hard, non-stop work to become a millionaire starting from zero. They say, well, if you become a millionaire, you're just lucky, and you're really not entitled to that money. That money should be taken from you and given to those who are less fortunate. Well, a lot of people buy this because most people have no idea about long-term consequences. So what happens to the people who receive the money? Well, they become dependent on the money. And then if you give them more money and food stamps and all kinds of other welfare policies, they become dependent, and then their children become dependent. And the children grow up, and all they see is adults who don't work and who spend their time unfortunately, engaging in, let us say, unhealthy behaviors. And so they learn that the way the world works is that you just get money from the government and you don't work at all. And then they raise their children. So very soon we have 3 and 4 generations of people who don't work. And their children don't work, and their grandchildren don't work, and nobody works. It's the most amazing thing. The primary reason for poverty today in America is people don't work. Most poor people don't work at all. There's no workers in the family. Anyway, so it seemed like a good idea to give people who are less fortunate more money, but the long-term consequences were to destroy those people, destroy their pride, destroy their dignity, destroy their children, turn many of their children into criminals and dope addicts and so on. So it seemed like a good idea. The long-term consequences of it were a disaster. And this happens in every part of life. A person eats a little dessert and it tastes good, and they eat more dessert and it tastes good, and they eat a whole dessert, and then they eat 2 or 3 desserts, and pretty soon they're grossly overweight. And 60% of Americans now, American adults, are overweight. 30% are morbidly obese. What does that mean? It means that they are so overweight that they are close to serious physical illnesses, including heart attacks and diabetes and so on. So what seemed like a good idea at the beginning turns out to be not a very good idea at the end. So I began to think, what are the characteristics of human nature? People say, well, that's just human nature. You can't deny human nature. So going back to the work of von Mises and von Hayek and others, I concluded that there are 7 qualities of human nature that explain economics and all behavior. And remember the expediency factor is that people always choose the fastest and easiest way to get the things they want as soon as possible with little or no concern for the long-term consequences. This E factor is the most destructive of all factors, both in individual life and in the life of societies. So, we say that human beings have 7 common qualities. Number 1 is that human beings, people, are lazy. Now, lazy is not either a good word or a bad word, it's just a fact. People are lazy. Some people are so lazy that they won't do anything to help themselves. But what lazy means in our economics is lazy means that people always seek the fastest and easiest way to get the things they want. Nobody can, based on human mentality, nobody can take a harder way if there's an easier way that's available. So human beings always seek easier ways to do things because people are lazy. Now, because people are lazy, this is the main reason for all of the advances in human science and invention and physics over the years, is that inventors are always looking for ways to help people get the things they want easier than ever before. And people are willing to pay for that, whether it's an iPhone that enables you to communicate with the world, whether it's a television that enables you to look up 350 channels, whether it's a car or modern appliances. Everybody wants to do things easier. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's neither good nor bad. It's only bad if it undermines your long-term health and happiness. The second quality that people have in common is that they are greedy. Now, religions and people in different political parties try to say that if someone is greedy, that is bad. The fact is that greedy is neither good nor bad. It's just a fact. And what does this mean? It means that people prefer more to less. If I offer you $5 an hour or $10 an hour, you will choose $10 an hour. Does that mean that you're greedy? No, it means that you are a normal, natural human being with a natural human mentality that always prefers more to less. Sometimes in my seminars, I talk about selling. I say the favorite word in the English language or in all languages is the word more. Everybody wants more of certain things, usually more good things. So it's neither good nor bad, except how it is manifested. So now we know from the beginning that everybody's lazy and greedy. All right, the only question is, how do they go from point A to point B? And I'll explain this. I call it the ABC theory. A is the way people are, B is the different ways that they can achieve their goals, and C is the goals that are important to all people. Now the third quality is normal and natural, is that people are selfish. Human beings are selfish in that they think about themselves most of the time. So they're lazy and greedy, and they think about themselves and what is best for themselves. I just listened to an interview on the way down here, and it said that anybody who thinks that people are not self-seeking, selfish, is simply living in a fantasy land. So it's not whether it's good or bad, it's only how you express your selfishness. If your selfishness is that you want to earn a lot of money, and the key way to do it is to serve a lot of other people with what they want and earn a profit so you can live in a big house, then selfishness is a very good thing. The fourth quality is that people are ambitious. What does that mean? Is that people want to improve their condition. Every human action, according to von Mises, is an attempt to improve your position or your condition in some way. A human being will not act unless they believe that after acting, they will be better off than they were before. Other than that, they simply become passive. Great example. With the welfare system today, if you take a job, then for everything you earn from your new job, it's deducted from your free money that you're getting from the government. So why would a person take a job? That doesn't improve my condition. Now I've got to get up and go to work 40 hours a week, and I'm no further ahead than if I sat at home and watched television. So you can't, if you say, well, you must get up and take, no, you're asking a person to act contrary to human nature. Now, the fifth quality is that human beings are vain. In other words, people think very highly of themselves. Normal and natural, they think highly of themselves. They think that they're smarter. 75% of people think they're smarter than the average. 75% of people think that they have better leadership qualities than the average. 75 to 80% of people think they're more attractive than the average. Everyone is vain. And vanity is a good thing. It's the foundation of all fashion and all taste and all cosmetics and perfume. It's the fashion, it's furniture and beautiful homes and cars and offices. In other words, a wanting of beauty for yourself is very good. There's nothing wrong with it, except if you're so vain that you think you're absolutely right and everybody who disagrees with you is absolutely wrong and must be punished, well, then your vanity is not serving you or others. The sixth quality that all human beings have is they are impatient. They want things fast. They want things now. They want things in a hurry. If you offer somebody a choice to get something quickly or to get it slowly, they always want it fast. If you offer people money today or money tomorrow, they want it today. And this is a fundamental factor in all of economics. All interest rates, by the way, are originally designed to encourage people to hold off immediate consumption so that they can have higher amount of money to consume a year from now because of interest. And finally, number 7 is everybody's ignorant. Nobody knows everything there is to know about anything. And so therefore, every human decision that you make is based with an enormous amount of ignorance. You know very little about your own health, structure of your own body, the economics or dynamics of your own industry, the way things work in politics, how other people think and feel. And the worst thing you can do is to think how smart you are. Albert Einstein was once asked if he had 1 hour to solve a problem that was going to destroy the world, how would he spend his time? And he said, I would spend the first 59 minutes understanding the problem and the last 1 minute solving the problem. So people are lazy, greedy, vain, selfish, ambitious, impatient, vain, and ignorant. And so what is it that they all want with these 7 qualities? So what is it everybody wants? Well, this is the other side of economics. Everybody wants the same 7 things worldwide throughout all of history. Number 1, based on Maslow, is they want safety. Everybody wants to be safe. They want to be safe from harm, especially safe from dying. There's nothing that makes a person more nervous or more afraid than the possibility that they will not be safe. The second thing they want is survival. People want enough food and water and clothing and other things to survive, to not be hungry, to not be destitute. The third thing that people want is security. And security, once a society like ours has provided for safety and survival needs so that most people are safe and most people don't have to worry about surviving, the next thing people want is security. And all the drive towards savings and life insurance and investment and finance and retirement plans is all aimed at achieving security. So there's nothing wrong with it wanting to achieve these things. Now the fourth thing we want, once we have satisfied our needs for safety, survival, and security, is leisure. We want to take it easy. We want to put our feet up. We want to relax. And of course, the leisure industry is enormous, trillions of dollars. Every cruise ship and hotel and resort and every game and sport and online video gaming and television and entertainment is all to satisfy human beings' great desire for leisure once they feel secure. Now, the next thing we look for is love. Once we have the first five covered, safety, survival, security, and leisure, then we want love. We want the love of others in general, but especially we want the love of one important person. In fact, if you are not in a loving relationship, if someone does not love you, that you love, then you always feel a tremendous ache, a need, an emptiness. So we're born to be loving human beings, to love others. But you can't love others if you're hungry, and you can't love others if you're fatigued, and you can't love others if you're insecure or afraid. So the next thing that naturally happens is once our basic needs are taken care of and we can relax, first thing we think of when we have leisure is to go out with other people, to meet other people of the opposite sex, to have fun, to enjoy our social relationships. Well, the next thing we need is respect. And respect is very important. As a matter of fact, lack of respect is a major reason for anger, frustration, wars, gang fights, individual attacks. In fact, many of the great problem peoples of the world are screaming for the respect of other people. The only way that people are respected today is if they do something that is worthy of respect. Like in the mafia, they call a very high-level person a person who is worthy of respect. In our society, the people who make the greatest contributions and contribute the most value toward the well-being of others are usually the most respected people. Unfortunately, because of the expediency factor, an enormous number of people demand respect without ever doing anything to deserve it, without ever lifting a finger or making an effort. And this is a big problem today. Now, if you don't get the respect that you want because you haven't deserved it, you almost automatically click into negative emotions. And the two worst negative emotions in our economy are envy and resentment. You'll find that almost all of the laws and regulations that are imposed to punish successful people are based on envy and resentment. Recently, you've heard Bernie Sanders with his national campaign attracting thousands of young people saying, tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich, free, free, free for everything, and we'll take the money away from those who are earning it. And people who don't have any money, most young people don't, think that's a good idea. I like that idea, if it's possible to do it, which of course it is not. If you taxed away all of the money of all the richest people in America and you divided it all up, there'd be enough to run the country for about 5 weeks. And after that, a country like North Korea would simply collapse into impoverishment for years. The only place where you can raise money in our society is you've got to tax people who are working for the money, and that means the middle class. And eventually you have to tax everybody. So the final thing that people want is fulfillment. And this goes back to Abraham Maslow's desire for self-actualization. This is what drives people to paint pictures and sing songs and write books and create works of art, is human beings want to fulfill their complete potential. And you'll only be truly happy when you have covered everything else and you have enough time and you have enough money and intelligence and ability so that you can do what you love to do and fulfill your full potential. So this is what I began studying. I wrote it in my book, Something for Nothing. The fastest way to get all of the things that you want is something for nothing. The lowest price is free. So the most popular word in any language, aside from more, is the word free. It's used in thousands of advertisements every day because every human being is geared to want to get as much as possible for the lowest price possible, and the lowest price is free. So, what is the difference between one society and another? Well, we assume, as the founders of America did, that this is the way people are, human nature. We don't try to change them. People are lazy, greedy, selfish, ambitious, ignorant, vain, and impatient. And they all seek safety, security, survival, leisure, love, respect, and fulfillment. Now, how do you get those things? The fastest and easiest way to get all the things that you want in life, being the person you are, is with money and power. So the question is, how do you get money and power? Everybody knows that money and power is the high road, the fast track to getting all the things you want, including fulfillment and love and respect. So how do you evaluate a society? I call this the ABC method. A is the way people are, C is the way people, what people want, and then B is how you get from here to there. When America was set up, it was designed so that a person could come here and start with nothing, and by working hard, upgrading their skills, telling the truth, saving their money, building a reputation for honesty and integrity, they could create a wonderful life for themselves. As Ayn Rand said, when I read her when I was 21, which I hate to say is 51 years ago, she said America was the first country in the world where the words "make money" were invented. Up until that time, all of money was looted with war after war after war, right up until World War II, even the Korean War. It's all those wars were driven by the desire for plunder and loot and free land and free homes and free gold and free artwork. And the United States created a society that was governed by law, where a person who lived within the law and worked hard and told the truth could actually become successful. And so the United States created more millionaires than all the rest of the world put together, and more billionaires than all the rest of the world put together, because there were so many opportunities for people in the free market, free enterprise system to go out and find ways to succeed. So in a society where the way you achieve all the things you want by serving other people is a society that's free and that's growing and prosperous and happy. And the most successful people are the people who serve the greatest number of people in the very highest and best way. And the wonderful thing about our society is that anyone can enter into our economic system at any time with an idea to serve other people with something that they want and need and are willing to pay for, and they can become a big success as well. You know, look at some of the richest people in America. Bill Gates. Why is Bill Gates so successful? It's because he developed software, Microsoft operating system, and opened it up to all other developers in the world so that more people could use more computers easier and faster at a lower price than ever before dreamed of. And his single mission was a computer on every desktop. And today we have computers in our iPhones, we have computers in our iPads, we have computers everywhere, and we can communicate with the entire world. So Bill Gates is the richest man in the world, and nobody resents Bill Gates' success. They think, isn't that great? And then look at Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg, you know, 30 years old and multi-billionaire by the age of 25. Nobody resents his success because he created a social media tool that everybody in the world can use to communicate with their friends and family. So there's a direct one-to-one relationship between the value of your service and your rewards. If you want to increase your rewards in life, increase the value of your service. Now, I found over time that the way to increase the value of your service is to upgrade your skills. One of the things that I teach in my seminars, I ask this question: what is your most valuable financial asset? And the answer is your earning ability. It's your ability to earn money. It's your ability to get results that people will pay you for. And so what determines your financial success in life is your ability to get results. And so what you find, going back to the 80-20 rule, is the bottom 80% of people will learn their job in the first year, according to 25 years of research, and then they level off, and they never get any better. And 10 years after they started their job, they're no more productive than they were after 1 year. So as a result, their income can only go up at the rate of inflation. And inflation is, 1 or 2 or 3% as long as you remain employed. The people in the top 20%, according to Gary Becker, the Nobel Prize-winning economist who I mentioned earlier, Gary said that the top 20% of people increase their income by 11.8% per year on average. Now, some increase their income 15 or 20 or 25%. But 11.8% on average means that if you're 20 years old and you just keep learning and upgrading your skills, which is what he said they did, then by the time you're 26, 6 years, you will be earning twice as much as the average person, and or twice as much as the people you started off with. By the age of 32, you'll be earning 4 times as much. By the age of 38, you'll be earning 8 times as much. By the age of 44, you'll be earning 16 times as much. You'll be in the top 20%. Just simply by learning and upgrading your skills 1 or 2 hours each day, 5 or 6 days a week, rather than watching television or playing with social media. Upgrading your earning ability. Now, people who don't want to upgrade their earning ability, who want to have fun, who want to play all the time, lazy, greedy, ignorant, and so on, these people resent those who work hard to upgrade their skills, who come in early and work a little harder and stay a little later and spend time in the evenings and weekends upgrading their skills and learning how to get better results. They don't want to do that work, but they resent the people who do. And this explains our political situation. Just like if there is a need in the marketplace, a company will usually emerge to fulfill that need. If there is a need or a demand in the political marketplace, politicians will emerge and say, vote for me and I'll give you free money. And that's basically the cause of all of our problems in the United States, Canada, Europe. I'll give you an example. For about 2 decades now, all the Western countries have been bankrupt. They've been bankrupt on paper because of Social Security. They offered back in the 30s and 40s and 50s to allow people to retire comfortably if they just paid a little bit in each year. So people did. But then the politicians, instead of investing that money so that it would grow and be ready, the politicians said, well, I'll use this money to buy free votes. So what they did is they blew it all in every country. So now the Social Security Reserve Fund or Trust Fund has $0. It has no money at all. So if you just took a look at how much Americans owe on paper based on government promises which they did not charge you for, or if they did, they spent the money, the latest estimate was $107 trillion. Business Week a couple of years ago calculated that unfunded liabilities of federal and state governments is about $220 trillion. If we have an average economy of 18 trillion, that means that we can never pay it off. And why? It's because of something for nothing. Politicians realize that by the time the money comes due, they'll be long gone. And they have beautiful retirement programs completely aside from Social Security. So no matter what happens to the economy, they have beautiful retirement programs, beautiful medical plans, beautiful security forever. All you have to do is serve 2 terms and you never have to worry about money again. So this brings it around to the free society. The free society is based on creating a structure where the only way that people can achieve the things that they want, being who they are, is by doing things that serve and improve and enhance the lives of other people. Business people are only successful to the degree to which they serve people. And they serve people with products and services that they want and need to improve the quality of their lives. And a free society is a society where there's lots of people offering the same pleasures or benefits. So a free person can choose, and therefore the only way a business person can survive is if somehow their product or service is superior to that of anything else that's offered. Now, I read a wonderful line by Henry Hazlitt many years ago. He said, those who will not serve people choose rather to rule over them. Those who will not serve people, work in the private sector, choose rather to go into government where they never have to work or serve anybody else for the rest of their lives. And the great problem that we have with the fact that the average income is not increasing for 10 or 20 or 30 years or whatever they say when they're running for office is very simple. At one time, 90% of the American population was working, and only 10% was handling all the government and administration and all the teaching and what we might call the non-productive sector. Now, they resent these words, but basically, if you took all the government servants in America or any country and you took them 50 miles offshore and dumped them off an ocean liner, the society would continue to function pretty well because most of what they do is not important. But what has happened now is we've gone from 10% of people basically managing and administrating, which is not bad, 10%, in the Bible it says, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, which is 10%. And they reckoned that the Roman Empire could run on 10% of tax revenue. Today what we have is we have 50% of people or more who are now living off the other 50%. And no matter how much the other 50% produce, they can never produce enough for our overall income to go up, because each time they do, they pass more taxes. We have some of the highest tax rates in the world. My tax rates in California are 63%, believe it or not. And you know what they say in Sacramento, where I live? Is we've got to raise taxes on people who are earning money. The taxes have got to be higher. So what is happening? Everybody with half a brain, except me, is moving out of California to Florida, where there's no income tax, or Texas, where there's no income tax, or Nevada, where there's no income tax. And surprise, surprise, those economies are booming, because people always seek the fastest and easiest way to get the things they want as quickly as possible with little concern for long-term consequences. Anyway, so that's my little diatribe on economics. Your job as a student is first of all to understand the primary reason for left-wing politics is to get something for nothing. The primary reason that people run for office today is to offer something for nothing in exchange for votes. Now, when they get to office, if they get into office, they all arrive in Washington or London, and they say, well, what did you promise to get here? Well, here's my laundry list. How about you? Well, here's my list. Oh, good grief, how are we going to give all this free stuff to all these people? Well, we're going to have to negotiate. We're going to have to, log rolling is what it's called. We're going to have to go back and you vote for my bill and I'll vote for your bill. And we'll give a little bit from your bill and a little bit from your bill. So all of Washington is elites who are negotiating over paying the people who voted for them just enough so that they'll vote for them again next time. Now that sounds cynical, but if you can find a better explanation, then by all means find it. This is why we have a Brexit. The British people finally said, no, we're not going to live under the governance of thousands of faceless bureaucrats in Brussels who control 70% of British life. And in the United States, we're having this, let's say, turmoil in our political system because the average person has realized that he's being taken for a ride. He's a sucker. These people in Washington, they're an elite that live like kings, that live like the royalty of old, that have no need to satisfy anybody just to stay in office. So anyway, your job, my job, and I spent thousands of hours at it, is to understand how our free market works, and then to support people who believe in our ideas, who believe in the importance of freedom and free enterprise and limited government, who believe in personal responsibility and working hard and telling the truth, who believe in honesty and integrity and continual self-improvement. So look for people who believe in those things, and there are people there. And the more you support those people, as they say in the Bible, give me 10 men who are stout-hearted men, and I'll give you 10,000 more. If you support these people who believe in our principles, who believe in liberty and freedom and justice, if you believe and support those people, then more and more of those people will stand up and say, if you elect me, I'll fight for you. Thank you very much for being with me today, and I wish you a wonderful meeting.